Good evening, class. My name is Professor Narrates. You may call me Professor Ycey. I'll be your new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Seems they've once again replaced one for the year, so let me get the usual questions out of the way. First things first. Yes, the Yankee accent does say American. I did not graduate Hogwarts like the rest of your good selves. But I do plan to teach the material and introduce everything I've learned in my schooling. Secondly, yes, last year's teacher has unfortunately left. He came down with an unfortunate case of vampirism, but that should be cured if they can find one. And if they can't, well then he'll probably have a fantastic career playing the romance interest in a young adult novel adaptation. Thirdly, if you see this parchment at the front, you'll notice that there's a series of lines that show dates, names, and times. We are not going to have class, or at least the full schedule, for the next week. Personally, I believe that everybody learns in a different way, so I'm having you sign up for just a 10 to 15 minute session with yours truly, where we can test your casts, test your hexes, your spells, and gauge what learning method is best for you. You only need to attend one session. For the rest of the days, well, enjoy your time off. Hopefully studying, but it's the beginning of the year, so I know that nobody's going to be studying at the moment, so I should be saying enjoy your vacation, and enjoy your time at Hogsmeade, no doubt. Now on to today's lesson. I'm just adding these books to our reading list. They're very thin, and I only require you to read pages 58 through 62, as well as 88 through 97. Our course material for the next week will cover those sections. Now, on to today's lesson. Before you can begin to learn how to counter the problem, you need to begin by identifying what the problem is. Today we're looking at Boggarts and Dementors. Can anybody who was here last year tell me again what a Boggart is? Yes, you. Last name Listener, is it? Oh, Listener. Lovely last name. Can you tell us what a Boggart is? Good, yes. No form. And what else? Precisely, yes. So as some of you know, and some of you have probably just learned, a Boggart does not have an exact form that we know of. And if it wanted to, it could take on the appearance of a Dementor, unless you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two. Now, when a Boggart takes on the appearance of a creature, though, it takes on some of its abilities, including, as the Dementor is capable of doing, sucking away any happy memories and leaving you with just sadness, and misery, and loneliness. So then, can someone answer me this? What is the difference between a Dementor and a Boggart that's taken on the appearance of a Dementor? Anyone? Well, allow me to explain. In my studies in zoology, I decided to come face to face with a Boggart several times, and after last year's encounter, where several students unfortunately were exposed to Dementors that had to monitor the castle grounds, many students did start to develop a fear of them, I noticed. So as I was saying, I decided to expose myself to the Boggart. Please do not do this outside of class, especially not with other students. This is purely for research. I decided to test the abilities that a Boggart has when it's in the shape of a Dementor. Sure enough, it indeed was capable of sucking away all the happiness and leaving just misery and loneliness and sadness and everything else in between. And as you can see on page 88 of your book, you can see a researcher's note from yours truly saying that the Boggart, in order to make its apparition seem more realistic, will take on the appearance and even some of the character traits of whatever creature or identity that it's trying to mimic in order to invoke fear in you. However, I was wrong. The feelings invoked by a Boggart are sadness, fear, and I would say intense misery. The feelings invoked by a Dementor are far different. Now again, I please ask that you do not try to attempt this outside of class, not that any of you would, but with special permissions from Azkaban and under strict supervision, I decided to take my research a bit further, and I stood alone in a room with a Dementor. The feelings left by a Dementor when it tries sucking the literal life out of you isn't just feelings of sadness or loneliness or even despair. It hollows you out. So now, today's lesson is about identifying the problem that both these two creatures of the dark arts invoke in us. Well, it's just as much a lesson about identifying the problems that cause sadness, loneliness, and despair, as well as the problems that cause emptiness. Just curious, does anybody think there's a difference between sadness and emptiness in here? Oh, okay, never mind. This isn't a psychology class, might as well stick to the topic. But feelings of sadness and loneliness and misery, as terrible as they are thankfully just fleeting moments. They're here temporarily. So no matter what comes your way, no matter what creature or Bogart or event, whether it be in school or a matter of the dark arts or not, whatever comes your way, just know that it is temporary, even if the feelings will linger for a long time. The Boggart cannot actually harm you. It can only mimic the problem that it wants to be, and it will only leave you with the feelings that you allow it to. Although that's like saying that something only hurts if you say ow. But the reason I mention this is the moments will pass. For the time being, however, such counter curses to dissuade a Boggart usually consist of the spell Ridiculous, which is where you picture the Boggart in something hilarious, and thereby counteracts the fear that it invokes. This is a really good method, replacing sadness with happiness, replacing fear with joy. But sometimes you will come across a little monster that perhaps doesn't want to be gotten rid of with just a laugh. In our one-on-ones and in our classes in the future, we'll cover the spells and incantations to counteract that. But what these effects do is more than just simply replace the feeling of loneliness with a slight laughter, or the feelings of sadness with joy. Part of the thing that these spells that we're going to teach you later on do is they teach you to take that sadness and take that misery and use it almost as if it were a tool or a weapon against your adversary. They are very difficult to perform, but persistency, determination, and above all, patience is the key. So, to review, number 1, the feelings that these fears invoke are temporary. Remember that first and foremost. Secondly, you will always be alive when these fears and miseries and despairs are heaped upon you. And if you're still alive, which, as I said you are, that means only one thing. You are getting stronger. You are getting more talented, and you are able to throw far more back at this little monster than it could ever throw back at you. And that's the third right there. Remember these important notes in our next class, and they will help you perform the necessary counters needed to face these monsters. Now, before class ends, the feelings left by a Dementor. Contrary to what I thought in the past, this little monster does not leave feelings of fear or doubt. This creature hollows you out. Hollows is the only word I can say. But it's not that you can't feel joy as a result of facing this beast. You're left with almost no feeling at all. You feel completely empty. And if any emotions do rise to the top, they may just manifest themselves in the form of disgust or anger. Or, if you're lucky, fear. I can tell you this, being in such depths as that, having no feeling at all after my encounter. I won't sugarcoat this, but I wanted to end my own life then and there. So my first tool or tip, my first helpful hint I would suggest to you is, for one, don't let that happen. It is never so terrible that you should end your life, and please, please, for all that is holy, please, do not think that you are so worthless that the world would be better off without you. This is a lie. You add very much. Even if you don't think you've added something significant, every one of you in here does add something amazing. And you add it with your own unique flavor of life. But please, do not take that away. Do not punish everyone here by punishing yourself. The reason all of you are in this class is because even the loss of one of you is a tragedy. So I want you all to be as prepared as you possibly can before you go out into the world. The second thing I want you to remember is this. I unfortunately don't have all the answers, and frankly, nobody does. But just because someone doesn't have all the answers does not mean that you should come to them. When facing off against this beast, it's better to do it in groups. This monster can't hit all of you at once. And if you find that yourself or one of your friends is falling to it, then you can help pick them up. So just to repeat, secondly, be sure to face this monster in groups. But life is often unpredictable. So if you find yourself completely alone and in front of this monster, then yes, one of these spells that we're going to learn is indeed called the Patronus. It is an immensely difficult spell to learn, but it is not impossible. I've found personally that a great deal of it depends on how the caster views themselves. This is not just a feeling of happiness, this is not just a feeling of elation. To cast this spell, you might need to change how you view yourself. See yourself as someone who is much more worthwhile than you might give yourself credit for. Someone who definitely, absolutely, needs to be around. And yes, that someone is someone who you can look in the mirror and feel that they are important. Because, as I've already said, everybody in this class, I find each of you important. Because without any shadow of a doubt, you are important. And you are worthwhile. And you are certainly amazing. And you are certainly capable of much more than you might give yourself credit for. So, to reiterate, when faced with this monster, number 1, do not end your own life because you have thought you failed. Secondly, stay in groups. Stick with your friends. Stick to the family. And if you do find yourself alone, demonstrate patience and find the value that is truly already there, but just needs to be recognized. And I guarantee you will find it. Well, it seems that's all for today. Remember, class, don't forget to sign up for a time on the parchment. I look forward to our one-on-ones. And thank you all for attending class today, and cheers, cheerio, whatever you say over here. Enjoy the rest of your day.